All right. There he is. Ladies and gents, our white whale right here at Go Long. He is a legend in Western New York and beyond. Who am I kidding? Wherever he's been. All 9 teams. 7th round pick out of Harvard. Did you go to Harvard? We've heard that a few times over the
I
years,
did. I
right?
attended Harvard. Yes, yes.
But look, start here. You threw for more yards than Troy Aikman, Steve Young, Kurt Warner, Sonny Jurgensen. We got to get you into Canton. I think there it is. Right? I mean, facts are facts. So we'll start there, and obviously the exceptional analyst at Amazon Prime Video. For my money, without a doubt, the absolute best crew talking football today. It's not close. You guys are yourselves. There's just no cliches and massaging of messaging. It's shooting from the hip. Guys at the bar talking about football. You, Witt, Sherm, Tony Gonzalez, who I got to know for Blood and Guts. Just the 4 possible best dudes together talking ball, and the co-host of Fitz and Witt. But first, we got to start here because Fitz, I think you give hope for men with an abundance of chest hair everywhere. So I just want to say thank you for making that cool, making that trendy. Like, when did you realize the chest hair should be wielded as a lethal weapon? Like, at what point of your life, Ryan?
I'll tell you what, I was a real late bloomer in that department, and even the beard department. It took me a long time to be able to grow all the hair follicles. But I'll tell you what, and I've said this before, but it's such an important part of who I am. You know, the chest hair just oozes personality. It's got a personality of its own. So I appreciate that you are with me in that department. I think you probably need to show it off a little bit more. Don't be so reserved about it. Take another button down. But it's something my kids are always like, "Why are you so hairy, Dad?" It's just who I am, man. It's just who I am.
You got to own it. You know, I thought about maybe just letting Amy and the Amazon crew that we just do the podcast with our shirts off, but we don't want to scare off everybody.
Yeah,
You know,
no, no.
as far as I'm concerned, because we know what you're bringing to the table. It's A plus. But
It
you
would be a
just got
more
to lean into
comfortable
it.
setting if this was just audio, but since it is, we have the video going too. Let's just go
Yeah,
ahead and get the shirts on and let the uh let the people dream about what they're missing.
that's right. Keep an element of mystery here. I will say, like, once I started, dating Gina, my wife, early in that process, once I knew she was okay with a bald and a chest haired fellow, I knew I had to lock it up. Like, I mean, just get that done, right? So, or I think your wife probably saw the transformation, Ryan, because
She
you
did.
guys were
She
together
was
in
along for
Harvard.
the ride. She actually said the other day to my girls, because um, one of my friends had sent me an old photo of me in college, and she was like, "That's the guy I fell in love with there, not what you see here." You know, this was all something she's got to live with now. But man, this podcast is getting off to a good start here. This
It's what the
is
people want.
almost
Well,
like an
here's the hard,
advertisement for OnlyFans.
but here's the hard hitter right here. I mean, what's your stance on back hair, Ryan?
This is interesting because as you could imagine, a pretty au natural guy. Um, Now I did last year for the first time trim my back hair. I've only done it once in my life. It's back in full force. Uh,
Back with a vengeance.
I always I always grew up, big Seinfeld fan growing up. So I don't know if you're a Seinfeld guy,
Oh,
but so
absolutely.
When Kramer starts shaving his chest and Jerry starts shaving his chest, and then
Okay.
Kramer shows him what happens. It grows back even fuller in the shower, and so
It's
that's
a
always been my
werewolf.
concern with the back hair. I did it once. I got to admit, I don't think I'll do it again. Very comfortable with lots of hair.
Man, this is why we have you on. Same exact process here. I think there were a couple times in the past, maybe ahead of like the honeymoon, right? Probably going to be
Yeah,
walking around without the shirt on. Don't want to scare off everybody. But when you're married, you don't care. Number one, obviously. But that's probably the number one reason not to do it. It grows back fast and full and itches, just like Jerry on Seinfeld becoming a werewolf. I'm with you. Just own it. Okay.
yeah,
Well,
I'm against shoulder hair. Let's just say that, and then we can move on. I'm certainly against shoulder hair. I'm fine with back and chest hair.
we'll stop there with the body hair. We'll draw the line right there if that's cool with you. So there you are at Highmark. You rip the shirt off. You're going nuts. That playoff game against the Patriots, and I don't know how many former Buffalo Bills players, quarterbacks, anybody could pull that off and be just an absolute icon, legend. It was nuts here locally, nationally, but you were beloved here those 4 years, Ryan. And right, I mean that was the drought, 17 years, not making the playoffs. I think well, you're 20-33 as a starter, but people hear your name, they think of Fitzmagic. They think of the 2011 Patriots game, which we got to get into that too. But why do you think you resonated so well with Western New York and Bills fans?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just got each other. I think part of it was my playing style. We were during those years, '09 was my first year in Buffalo, and that was Dick Duran's last year. Rest in peace, Dick Duran. And then Chan Gailey came in, and I think those next few years, if you remember in 2010, Trent Edwards started out that season as the starter. Um, and then essentially for the next 14 games, and then 2 years after that, I was able to come in and bring in a little bit of excitement. I feel like there were a lot of underdogs on the team at that point. Like if you look at that offense, it was all seventh round picks and undrafted guys. And I think the heart that we played with really resonated with the fan base. I think we had some real, high moments. Um, and just, I think when you play for Buffalo, uh, they love you so hard. So when you love them back, it really resonates with the fan base. And it's just the place where I played, where I felt the biggest connection with the fans. And that continues to this day and continues to grow to this day, which is nice. Um, and my household is interesting with my kids because my 16-year-old is it's tough to say the biggest Bills fan ever, but he's up there. He is up there with all the rest of the card carrying members of the Bills Mafia. But I also have a split household. I've got a couple other kids that are fans of different teams, and it's very strange on Sunday uh, for everybody not to be, head to toe Bills gear rooting for the Bills. But we've got to stay, uh, we've got to stay true to some of these kids with where they were born. We can't fault them for the fact that they're not Bills fans because my youngest was born in Tampa. He's a huge Baker Mayfield fan, and that's okay with me. And he loves the Bucks. I've got a Texans fan. Somehow I have a Dolphins fan, which look, I had a great time and loved every minute of Miami, but it's a split household, so Sundays are very interesting in my house.
Yeah, seven kids born in seven different cities, right?
Yeah, we do have a Jets fan too in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the Bills fan has been living pretty good the last few years.
I mean, take me back to 2011, week 3. You're down 21 nothing to New England. Tom Brady. Here they are again, kicking Buffalo's ass, blowing them out in Orchard Park. And next thing you know, Brady throws 5 picks. Fitz and Fred Jackson and Donald Jones and it's Drayton Florence.
Yeah, Drayton
Co-
Florence.
co-
He got on the cover of Sports Illustrated for
yeah,
that reception. Yeah.
come
Uh,
back with a vengeance. I mean, what was that day really like? Because you look back at that entire 17-year run, an entire generation where the Bills didn't make the playoffs. I feel like if you were to like power rank the most memorable moments, that might be number one. It's right up there.
yeah, I mean, it was on the heels. You remember week 2 was the Raiders game too, which that game was insane. It came down to a fourth down conversion at the very end. I think David Nelson was on the receiving end of that. We won 38-35. So there's a ton of excitement. So to follow that the next week with coming out, laying an egg, being down 21 nothing, and then that comeback, I think it was nice for me that that happened in year 3 because I was really able to understand it and fully grasp what it meant to the fan base, what it meant to guys like Kyle Williams and
Yeah.
Fred Jackson. It was just such a special moment for me. I have I have so many good ones in the stadium. That's why it's a little bittersweet, for the new one to be going up and for this to be the last season. Um, but that Patriots game is right up there with any of them, and I think a lot of it was just being on the field afterwards and fully embracing and feeling that moment with the fans and how important it was to them. Because at that point, I think it was 15 games in a row
Mhm.
that the Bills had
Right.
lost to the Patriots.
How loud was it, really? It seemed loud from afar.
It was so insane. I mean, I've heard it loud in there plenty, but that one was pretty insane. I mean, I feel like when I was just back for the Baltimore playoff game, um, I lost my voice immediately after leading the charge, but that also was up there in terms of the noise factor and what I had heard in that stadium before.
Because in Brady, it just felt like this indomitable, immovable object to the entire franchise. So you mentioned that moment after the game, and you're kind of soaking it in. Well, I guess a few seconds later, going out to midfield, he probably would like to shake Tom Brady's hand, and he is nowhere to be found. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this moment plenty. But, yeah, that certainly added fuel to my fire every time that I played him thereafter.
Yeah. You played him a handful of times too.
So many. He beat me so many times. I think I was 3-11 against him, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you've talked about it, but like, why did that piss you off? Is it because, I mean, you feel like as quarterback to quarterback, that should be a moment where you meet, you shake hands, win, lose, or draw, and own it.
Yeah, I mean it's just a sign of respect, competitors going at each other, and it's something that for me, doing a lot of coaching now with my kids, it's just one of those things, those fundamental things that you teach at a very young age. And I think the biggest part of it is just it's a sign of respect. Hey, good game, thank you, and then you move on. Wonderful.
Yeah. So I mean, 2011, things are going great. 5-2, you get the contract, right? I mean, we're thinking this is going to last long term. Like, what in the hell happened? It just felt like that magic just kind of evaporated out of nowhere at that point.
Yeah, it was a tough ending to that season. We went to Toronto, we played Washington. Um, we beat them. I think John Beck got sacked 9 times in that game. Then it all kind of fell apart, man. And it's one of those things. With my career, it was so up and down, and certainly some of those highs in the 2011 season at the beginning were ultimate highs. But it's one of those things where you just have to. It was another experience for me where I had to learn from it and try to do the best I could to get better, to not allow that to happen somewhere else again. And that was hard. That was hard for me because it was kind of the first time I'd spent 2 years in St. Louis, got traded to Cincinnati, had spent 2 years there, and Buffalo was really the first shot I got at being a full-time starter.
Right.
And it was that first big contract that I got to feel a little bit of stability. And, for me, unfortunately, I wasn't able to fulfill that. I wasn't able to win enough games and play well enough to be that long-term starter for a while. So that was a harsh reality for me, to get cut, to have to move on, and then to have to find myself again, to go back to that backup role. Um, Tennessee, work my way up in Houston. And really after that year in Houston, where I learned a lot from Bill O'Brien and George Gotze and that coaching staff, that kind of helped propel me to a better second half of my career.
Didn't have to end, really. I mean, you played another 7 seasons. So, like, was that an option? Did you think about wanting to stick around at all? I mean, obviously, Buddy Nix kind of backed himself into that corner. We're drafting a quarterback. It was projected to the world in more ways than one. Did you think about mentoring an EJ Manuel, or was it that competitiveness kind of kick in? Like, no, I'm going to go start somewhere
Uh,
new.
yeah, I mean, I played another 9 seasons after that, and
9.
it, yeah, I mean, I got cut before he got drafted, I think. So that wasn't even really an option. Doug Marone came in with Nathaniel Hackett and they decided to go in different directions. So that kind of stuff in the NFL, there's never any hard feelings. It happens, you move on. You're probably going to see him again on another team at some point, but I certainly more so than having spite or looking at the ways I was wronged. It was more, okay, what can I do? Why did I put myself
Hmm.
in this situation? How can I get better? How can I improve? And that really helped me throughout the course of my career, especially like I said, that back half of my career, those last 8, 9 seasons.
It's so refreshing too. I mean, I don't know how many quarterbacks today think that way when things go wrong with their first team, let alone their second or third or their fourth. Man, well, what kicked in? Like, what's going through your mind then when you are rejuvenated, you get somewhere else, you get another chance? Like, what is that virtue that I imagine you'd like to pass down to your kids?
Yeah, I mean that was a cool thing for me. My kids, as I got later on in my career, my kids were old enough where they're going to remember some of this stuff. They're going to remember going to the games. They're going to remember, especially my two oldest boys, being in the locker room after the wins and after the losses, getting to throw passes in training camp to Brandon Marshall, those type of things that, they'll be core memories for them. So it was always important for me, um, in the face of adversity, in the face of a tough loss, to always be the same person,
Yeah.
to not treat them differently or treat anybody else differently because I was upset or because of my failures. I always wanted to be the same guy day in and day out. And I think that was something that was really important to me. And as I got older, it became easier to me because I always had these eyeballs looking up at me every single day, looking at their dad, seeing the way that he reacted. And so that part was really cool for me. As I grew, I was able to show my kids some of those lessons along the way.
How did you do it? Like, we just had our third. Rocco's a month old, and it is, busy. We've got 5-year old, 3-year old. I'm 1 month old, and I'm just thinking of Ryan Fitzpatrick with 7 kids in the NFL, moving team to team. How is that even possible? I can't wrap my head around how your family was able to not only function but thrive.
Yeah. There's a lot that went into it. And I think the number one thing that I have to point out is my wife is amazing. Liza, everywhere we went, we would move into a new neighborhood and people would be like, oh my gosh, that's Ryan, there's the quarterback right there. And then I was quickly brushed aside when they met my wife because she is so amazing. And everywhere we went, and I've said this a lot, but it's like we viewed it as an adventure every time we had to pick up and move. It wasn't woe is me. It wasn't, gosh, why do we have to do this again? It was, oh my God, I can't wait to get to Houston. I can't wait to go to New York. I can't wait to go to Tampa. Um, and just viewing it as an adventure, making sure that the kids knew that this was something where we could dive in, we could form relationships. Every school we went to was incredible. My oldest son went to 10 schools in his lifetime, and so those are things that I didn't experience when I was a kid. I was always kind of same school district. My wife was kind of same school district, but for him to have those experiences and some of our older kids to have those experiences where they had to be the kid that walked into class and didn't know anybody and you had that lump in your throat and you had to figure it out. Those are things that are really going to help them in life as we keep going. And things that I'll certainly never take for granted because we loved everywhere we lived, and we love the friendships that we're able to make and maintain to this day.
How are you able to just stay this like force of positivity though, Ryan? Like, you could many times over have gotten so just discouraged, pissed off. I mean, you hear your GM on a prank call talking about, oh yeah, we're looking for another quarterback, and you're on 2 teams that seem to be tanking, and you're trying to win games, and you're getting benched maybe when you shouldn't get benched. I'm thinking of that year in Miami. Time and time and time again, you had a reason to get spiteful, get angry, and maybe you probably were angry to a degree, but to not allow that to consume you and to stay optimistic and this positive. How were you able to do that repeatedly throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly points where angry, upset, whether it was in, my play or whether it was in decisions that were made. Certainly there are things, not everything, is unicorns and rainbows. But that being said, there was a distinct turning point in my career after 2016 with the Jets. I had a great year in 2015 in New York, had a miserable year in 2016. Where it was the first time in my life I couldn't watch football. I was over it. I didn't want anything to do with it. I had a really bad season. I feel like I let a lot of people down, and I just had to take a step away. And from that point on, when I got a call from Dirk Cutter in Tampa, and he said, "Would you like to come be the backup?" My wife and I immediately got on Google Maps. I saw it was an hour away from Disney World and said, "Hey, why not?" From that point on, it was like this is going to be fun, and I
Huh.
think people saw that direct shift, even in my personality, in the interviews, and I think, in the way I played the game, I always tried to play the game free and light and with a lot of fun, but from that Tampa moment on, um, I really saw it as this is all icing on the cake. Let's go out there and have a good time because I love playing this game. This game has given me a lot, and I want to show, my kids a great time. I want to show all the fans I played for a great time. And so that was a big point for me in my career where I could kind of let everything else go away, realize that everything was icing on the cake, and just go out there and play.
That's awesome. It was that abrupt. Was it really like a specific moment? Maybe you're just sitting around talking to your wife. I don't. When did that epiphany kind of kick
Well,
in? And you
it was
really.
more because 2016 was so miserable for me. You have to reevaluate your why. Like, why are you playing this game? What is the purpose? So you know, it, the joyful game that we all grew up loving playing. Like, why are you continuing to put yourself through this and your family through this? Um, and for me, like, I had to refine that love of football, and I did. I mean, I had so much fun in Tampa with that group of guys and being out there on the field, and that carried over for the rest of my career. Miami, I would argue that I had more fun playing in Miami with that group of guys than at any other point in my career. And part of it, relates to what we were talking about earlier with that Bills team, 2010, 2011, 2012, is it was a bunch of cast-offs. It was a bunch of misfit toys. It was a bunch of guys that everybody had kind of stopped believing in. And, for me, towards the tail end of my career, it was like, how can I get these guys to have confidence and believe in themselves?
Hmm.
And so there were guys on that Miami roster like Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki who had been beaten down. And I think the confidence in themselves was wavering a little bit. So to be able to come in and lift those guys up, that was two of the more rewarding years of my career, to be able to do what we did there, even though, it didn't result in a championship. It didn't result in going to the playoffs. It did result in a lot of wonderful bonds for the rest of my life and a lot of great memories. Sitting there thinking about when Scotty Scheffler was talking the other day, I don't know if you saw that, about how thankless it was to be a golfer and to win. You put all this work into it and you win, and then it's such a fleeting feeling. You get it for, 10, 15 minutes, and then you move on to the next tournament. I think football is different because football is such a team game, and there's so much that goes into those relationships with the guys that you play with. And so, at the end of the day, I that season is viewed as a failure because the Dolphins didn't make the playoffs and the Dolphins didn't win enough games and all these things. But the amount of people that were affected, not just on that team, but in that building in those 2 years in such a positive way, to me, that's something I hang my hat on, and something that I love that I was able to be a part of.
That's so cool because I think on the outside looking in, I'm like kind of rehashing some memories of those 2 seasons in Miami. And, the first year you've got Tank for Tua or, Herbert or Burrow, whatever you want to call it. And you're wondering, okay, like is management, is he going to the quarterback? Is he not necessarily liking these wins at the end of the season? And is that an awkward, strange feeling? And then in year two, when two was there, hell, I think you had the team at 4-3 at one point when you got benched, and that was a heartbreaking moment. And then you guys are kind of yo-yoing there at the end. I mean, you had that amazing comeback against the Raiders, and still Flores goes back to two. You could look back and think that was totally frustrating, and you could be upset about how things went. But you're looking back at these relationships and what football provided, and those were good times, great times.
Great times, man. They're great. And again, there of course there was frustration along the way in a lot of different places, but um, I at the end of the day, the relationships were the thing that fueled me, and the relationships were always the thing that kept me going, and um, were something that I'm very proud of the way I was able to, foster different relationships in different places throughout my career.
Who was your best teammate in Buffalo, or even a couple guys when you look back?
I mean, Fred Jackson, number one, no doubt. Freddie
Hmm.
J.
Why is
Uh,
that?
I, I mean, the way the dude played the game, the ultimate competitor, such an underdog. I mean, even when I was in Buffalo, it's like they drafted Marshawn Lynch, and like Freddie was the guy. He was like a cockroach that wouldn't die, right? I mean, they drafted Marshawn Lynch. They were always bringing in different guys. They drafted C.J. Spiller, and Fred Jackson was always the best player on the team. And you put him in a combine, probably not a combine guy, but if you look at Fred as a football player, not just his ability to run the football and his vision, not just his ability to catch the ball, how smart he was as a player, how tenacious he was. You saw the effort and the grit every time he had the ball in his hand.
Hmm.
And I think that really embodies what Buffalo is. And he's a guy, and I've said this, and I'm just going to continue to say it. His name needs to be up in that stadium, and
Hmm.
there's going to be a lot of people probably that are not Bills fans that won't understand it or didn't hear a lot about him, but in terms of a guy, if you've ever been a Buffalo Bills player that you want to represent that team with his name up on the stadium, Fred Jackson should be up there.
Totally agree. I'll never forget 2015 training camp, his last one there in Buffalo. This is when Shady McCoy's there. They drafted Carlos Williams. I think Booby Dixon's on the roster too. When Fred Jackson walked onto the field at St. John Fisher, I mean, the fans went nuts. I mean, they're chanting his name for training camp practice, just roaring for this guy. Like, and I think that's why fans were able to connect with you. It's something beyond wins and losses, statistics, any of that. Like the locals here in Western New York can relate to. I know grit is overused, but it is grit. It is that personal
It
story of
is.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, seventh round pick, team to team, laying it all on the line. Fred Jackson, college. They're trying to replace him at every turn. God, you got to have a Fred Jackson story. Like, what does that look like up close when somebody's fighting like
Well,
hell?
I mean, I will say Freddie has a record that'll never be seen again in the NFL, which is in the same season he had over 1,000 rush yards and over 1,000 return yards. I mean, there's nobody that's going to put their starting tailback back there to return kickoffs. And it's what he did. It's like whatever it took for the team to win, it's what he did. And he was as if not more competitive off the field than he was on. I mean, the amount of times the dude was wrestling, it could be a Saturday during a walkthrough, and he's wrestling the biggest dude on the team, like hip tossing him in the locker. And you're just like, dude, we got to chill. We got to make it to Sunday. But he was so amazing as a teammate, and was able to catch up with him 2 years ago now. I think went out for his football camp that he holds in Ankeny, Iowa. And I believe his son Braden is now going to the University of Iowa to play, which is really cool. But that's how you know you're getting old, is all these little kids, that you saw back in the day we used to wrestle around and play with. They're now going to college. But he's ready to create his own legacy, and I'm sure as long as he has half of his dad's heart, he's going to be a great player.
Who's he taking on in the locker room? Who's he wrestling?
It didn't matter. Anybody like Kyle Williams, Schobel. I mean, it was a lot of Marshawn early on. They're both knuckleheads, but never me. I didn't want to mess with that dude. He was too strong.
We're talking to the pavement, to the canvas, like rolling around, like serious
Yeah, I mean
wrestling here.
usually carpet or
Yeah.
turf, but yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I mean to this day, he's probably still doing the same thing.
I'm picturing Chan and Buddy in there trying to break it up. Hey, save it for Sunday, guys. Come on now.
A lot thicker Southern accent, but yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna attempt a Buddy Nix, but I wouldn't do it justice at all. Uh, so I've heard you talk about these Bills today, and that you think this is the year. I guess you can't really say otherwise, but you genuinely believe this could be the
Always
year
there. It's
that they
always,
finally slay the dragon.
we had a great discussion, Andrew Whitworth and I, with our podcast. We had Brandon Bean on and had a really cool discussion with him. It was before the draft, and essentially, he wasn't afraid to say that they needed to beef up the defensive line. They need to get the defense going a little bit. And, certainly if you look at what they did in the draft, that was the goal, and they're going after it. They picked a lot of dudes, especially early. I think it was their first 5 picks. And so I'm excited to see that. I think Babish did a great job last year, first year as a coordinator. I know he's been there for a little while now, but I want to continue to see that get better and better. And I think the biggest thing with the Bills that I would love to see is in those got to have it moments on defense. Like, can they get the stop? Can they, just stopping guys and getting them off the field on third down? But like, those are the moments that we've kind of been missing. I feel like the last few years, and you've seen Josh kind of do it time and time again on offense, the things he's done, but um, that's the big question mark going into this year. How are those guys that they drafted going to perform? How is this defense going to continue to get better? Um, but they've got the right guys in place, and I think team chemistry goes a long way, and that's something that the Bills are very strong in right now.
It does. It matters. Right? You can't play football in a mathematical equation. Fourth quarter, 2 minutes left. You gotta love the guy next to you. Josh Allen, is there a relationship there? And what do you think just makes him different than his
Yeah, I love
contemporaries?
I love Josh. From the moment I met him, whether he was going to be a great football player or not, he just has this youthful joy about him. He's has an infectious personality, and now we've all kind of you've been let in and be able to see it. But the moment his humility, it's like the moment he won the MVP, it wasn't about him, it was about everybody else. You just start to hear some of these wonderful stories that never get that he's not broadcasting or putting out there, the lives that he's affected, and those small moments where he feels the need to just take the time to talk to somebody, to make their day. He's an incredible guy, hasn't changed one bit, from the moment I met him before he got drafted by the Bills to playing golf with him at the American Century in Lake Tahoe last week. Obviously, life has changed a bit for him. He's such a public figure now. He does have to pull back a little bit because of his popularity, but still the same human. Just a wonderful, wonderful dude with a huge heart, and I think that's why guys gravitate towards him in the locker room.
Is that rare for a quarterback of that magnitude to be yourself, stay yourself when you're an MVP, married to
I
the
think it makes
Hollywood actress, all of that?
yeah, I think like as the fame continues to grow and as the team around you continues to grow, and you have a lot more people on the payroll, um, that are basically just yes men. I think it's hard to stay grounded, and I think it's something that he's done a phenomenal job in doing. Um, that says a lot about his parents. It says a lot about the way he was raised, but I also think he's the kind of guy that was built, for this moment in time. He was built to be the face of the NFL, and to be an MVP, and hopefully to lead the Bills to a Super Bowl. Um, because of how grounded he is, because of how humble he is. And that being said, he's also the ultimate competitor, and that fire still burns in him. And I can't wait to see, all the all the cool matchups that he's going to have this year. I mean, if you're a Bills fan and you're going to these home games this year, you've got Lamar Jackson, you're going to get to see. You've got Joe Burrow, you've got Baker Mayfield, you've got Patrick Mahomes, and you've got Jalen Hurts. Those are five of the quarterbacks outside of your division or outside of your division that get to come in to the last year of Highmark Stadium and you get to watch them play against Josh Allen. I think that's a pretty good way um, to have a finale of a stadium season in Buffalo.
And you contributed to some Fitz magical moments along the way, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, before we lose you, is there? I mean, we talked so much about that Week 3 game. Any other moments that will stick with you forever inside
Yeah,
that stadium?
the week 3 game's great. I mean, maybe the worst moment of my career, 2015 season with the Jets. I think it was January 2016, last game of the year. We're 10-5, looking to make the playoffs. I think the Bills were 7-8 at the time, kind of a meaningless game for them, and we lose 22-19 maybe. We'd lose that game, and Pittsburgh wins the last week of the season, and we miss the playoffs. That was maybe the most gut-wrenching moment of my career, and it was able to be in that stadium in the visitors' locker room. And then the post-playing career stuff, ripping the shirt off after 7 straight touchdowns and maybe the most amazing playoff performance I've ever seen, where they beat the Patriots. Uh, to be able to lead the charge with my dad and my 3 boys standing essentially right next to me on the sideline as I'm ripping my shirt off, and the crowd is going nuts. There's been some really special times in the stadium, and really some big time lows as well. But it means a lot to me. I'm excited. We get to go out there for Thursday night football. I think it's September 18th versus the Dolphins. Been able to do that once before, and just kind of walk around, and to all the tailgates, just to interact with all the fans and just to show them my appreciation for them and everything they've given me over the years. So it's a love affair that won't be ending anytime soon. And I'm really looking forward to that game in September where we'll get to walk around and interact with everybody again.
Phenomenal. And for those who don't know, 7 degrees that day at Highmark when you ripped the shirt off, and that's no wind chill. I think there was a little wind as well. How cold was it when you
It's a
had to,
little nippy, a
flaunt
little
it?
nippy. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, people there are heaters in that. Think the 200 level is what it is.
It's
There are
true.
heaters above, so there's like a red glow. Again, we'll go Seinfeld reference, like the Kenny Rogers roasted chicken or whatever, where Jerry is in Kramer's apartment. And, but 7 degrees is 7 degrees. I mean, you're not really feeling those heaters. Let's just say that the beer was, if you didn't drink it fast enough, the beer was freezing. So that's how cold it was in Highmark that day.
I mean, a little liquid courage, I'd imagine too. You're how many beers deep are you when you rip that thing off to have warm you up?
Uh, I mean, maybe 2 or 3. I mean, nothing,
Oh, okay.
nothing too crazy. Had the kids with me. Had to be responsible.
It's true. That's true. Right. Got to set an example when we're ripping our shirt off at football games. I hear you there. Well, chest hair to chest hair. What a great spot to end. Ryan, thank you so much for hanging out. This was fantastic. Any final message to everybody here in Western New York and beyond?
I mean, the biggest message I have to Western New York, lucky enough for Thursday Night Football, we get you twice this year. The second time is in Houston right before Thanksgiving, but September 18th, be ready because we're going to have a time. I'm coming early and I'm bringing my friends and we're going to get after it. So I can't wait to see everybody. A lot of hugs to go around on that day.
Work a little 911 Tavern Wings. And I know you're busy when you're here. You're probably running all over the place, but that's number one in the power ranking for my money. I don't know if you have a go-to spot, but
I'm always going to the Mulberry when I'm in town. I got to at least have one meal there for sure with Joe Yergi.
can't go wrong with Mulberry as well. Ryan, thanks so much, brother. This was awesome.
All right, thanks, dude.
What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for watching this conversation with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitz magic, baby. He did not disappoint. Hey, Go Long is completely powered by you. So, first of all, just wanted to express my gratitude to everybody out there who has taken the time to sign up, subscribe, share with a friend. This is a perfect time to share the good word when it comes to Go Long and long form coverage of pro football. We have our first season preview featured live on Dalton Kincaid and his revenge this 2025 NFL season coming Monday a.m. I'll have a piece on the Cleveland Browns. Spent some time with Grant Delpit, somebody who would very much like to bring the bite back to the Browns. So I think you're really going to enjoy that story as well. And we'll have several throughout July, August, right up to kickoff. Cannot wait to share. Thanks for making us your home for real, raw pro football coverage. I'm Tyler Dunn. We'll see you next time.